Today we are going to start working on the mast and the spars, and the way I've done it in the past is to take dowels and either put them in a drill or a sander and cut them down, and I've decided with this build it's time I graduate and build it the way the masts were generally built on an Admiralty model, which is as close to the real thing. There is a fantastic YouTube video on how to make a traditional spar put out by Traditional Marine Skills, and the woodworker is a gentleman called Marcus Lewis. It's a 5-part series, roughly 10 minutes, 15 minutes for each video. I truly recommend that you look at that before starting this. I've tried to go as close in making my spar, follow his technique as closely as possible. Couldn't get it 100%, but got very close in the end. Having cut the mast to size, we're now going to reduce the square sections to the desired size. And this is done on the sliding table, the Preact sliding table, where you adjust the blade to cut just the amount that will leave you with the final correct measurement. This is why you do not use a round dowel, because you would never be able to square this thing off perfectly if this was a dowel. I then use a chisel just to clean up. You can leave it fairly rough at this point in time. When it's all done, you'll put a sander on it and clean it up. So this just helps take off the little ridges, because the saw doesn't cut every single one. So we finished one side. Double check the measurement. 698,703. So that's perfect. And now we'll do the other two sides, and then we'll take the end piece down, leaving a little piece at the end to stabilize the block, and we would have got the square done. Now if you try to do this on a round, you'd really be challenged. You'll notice that we put a little block here, and that's because when you pull the saw all the way, the whole of the blade, the top of it, doesn't get to the very edge. So you need to have this block in place, and you need to make sure that nothing is in the way of that doesn't rise up above it. Correct. So here we are. We've cut the 7mm, and now we're going to cut the 4mm. Okay, we have finished the top square. We have a 4mm square here, absolutely square, and we have a 7mm square here. So now we're going to mark off this part here and taper this in the way that video on YouTube shows you how to taper it. We're going to set up the taper now. So we want 7mm here and 8mm here. So that's the taper, and the same thing on the other side. And we're going to take this off with a plane. Probably can't see it too well, but there's the taper. I tried to make up the tool that they had suggested in the YouTube video, but it just wasn't lining up. So we're going back to the old trusted hand plane, and we're just going to use this and take down the majority. I put a center line along each so I can get an idea of what I was taking off, and we'll do that until I get it fairly round. Then I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to put it on the lathe and do the final work to get this down to 8 millimeters, and this tapering from 8 down to 7. And the wood does have a side that will chip at, so you need to figure that out and then just go in the other direction. Because I'm going on a lathe, the truth is I'm really just taking off the excess. I'm not going to get too close to the final measurement with the plane, simply because I have the lathe, and the lathe is going to do the fine work. If you don't have a lathe, I'm quite sure you could do this on a drill, putting one piece in a drill. It'll just take a little bit longer. Straighten the lines a bit. .704 and 792. So that's really as close as we're going to get it. So that's it. We now just need to clean it up and cut it off. And we'll just do a little trial fit. Nice tight fit. Absolutely perfect. This is actually not a piece of softwood. This is a piece of hardwood that I used. So the grain is much tighter, and I'm going to have to stain it to get it back to the walnut. We've stuck the main mast bibs onto the mast. We had to sand it down so it's a nice clean line, and the back of these is flush against the square section. So we're going to leave that to let that dry, and we've also stuck the first section here. It's relatively straightforward. We've used PVA, and we just need to clamp them up. I'm not too happy with my clamping job. I was using some weights on it, but that really didn't pull it in, so this will pull it down, and we'll do so on the other side as well. And as it progresses, we'll just keep you informed. You should, again, when you pull these things in, is to take out any excess glue. It just helps with the cleanup afterwards. This is the main topmast, and we're going to follow all the directions and build this one in the same manner as we built the main lower mast. Whenever I see videos on the internet, on YouTube, and you see these fellas doing these very complex construction jobs, and they do it right the first time, makes me wonder about my skills. I'm quite sure in real life it doesn't happen that way. And in the main topmast that we see here, just to let you know that that was the fourth one. We went through 3 trials before we were able to do it right. So stick with it. Don't get too frustrated when you break it or do something wrong. And eventually the last one will be the right one. Well, the last one was the most difficult of all to do. We made 4 of them before we got one done. Again, it's just the size, 2 millimeter on a lathe. It's just going to really test all your skills. I had to do it very differently, actually starting from inside the lathe and coming out with nothing supporting the end, and just really taking off very, very light amount and making sure that the chisels or the gouges that I was using were the absolute sharpest. Here we are, main mast, main topmast, and main top gallant is now complete. We'll work the details in. Very glad it's finally done. I would say it certainly proved to be quite challenging, but came out as I had hoped it would, and built like the rail masts were built.